Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining the Maine SBDC for our ongoing webinar series. Today, we will be discussing QuickBooks and which one you should buy. We have Tina Oddliefson, who is a new Maine SBDC business advisor right here in Portland at the USM office. She owned and ran an inn for 12 years on an island here in Maine with her husband. So she has a lot of experience running and owning businesses, and specifically with bookkeeping. She's got one of those minds that can really wrap her around all of that information that we all struggle with. So she's going to do a really good job of walking you through the basic information that you should be paying attention to when getting started. You will receive a follow-up email from me after this that will include the slides and a recording of the presentation. So if you need to rewind any part, you'll be able to. You can also reach out for one-on-one free business advising from either Tina or another business advisor through the Maine SBDC if you have any further questions that we can't get to today. But as they pop up today, please submit them in the chat. There will be time at the end for us to go over anything that isn't covered. And you can also use the chat as a networking feature. So please introduce yourself. Let us know where you're located, maybe what industry you're in. If you'd like to share a business link, feel free to do that. And yeah, otherwise, I think we are all set to go. So I will pass it over to Tina, who should have all of the permissions to share and do everything from here.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Kelsey. I hope I live up to it. As Kelsey said, my name is Tina Oddliefson, and I'm an SBDC advisor based out of Portland. For those of you who may not know a lot about the SBDC, we are an organization that's really tasked with supporting you as small business owners. And I really, like Kelsey said, encourage you to reach out to an advisor. We can talk to you about just about anything, including bookkeeping. The SBDC in Maine has about a dozen or so advisors located throughout the state, and we have hundreds across the United States. The program is a sub-program of the SBA. We're funded by the state of Maine and also hosted by the University of Southern Maine. So because of all that, we're able to offer you confidential, no-cost business advising services. So please take advantage of us. But we are here today to talk about QuickBooks. I have found that a lot of people are getting kind of confused about what QuickBooks is offering these days because there are so many options. So what I'm going to do is do a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll take a virtual field trip on over to the QuickBooks website and take a look at how you can test drive the software before you buy it. So I'm going to share out my screen. And we're going to get going. So you should see my PowerPoint slide, which says QuickBooks, which one should you buy? If you're not, let me know. I'm just going to close you up a little bit here. All right. So what we're going to be talking about, why QuickBooks versus other versions or other companies. We're going to talk specifically about the desktop versus the cloud-based software because that's probably the biggest decision point. We'll be getting into features and pricing. We'll take a look at the interface and the design of the two major different options and how to test drive it before you buy it. So as an SBDC advisor, I talk to a lot of small businesses, and I have found that they use all kinds of different ways to manage their financial transactions. And that can range from literally putting them in a box or a folder and handing them over to their accountant at the end of the year, hoping that they can figure it out. I've talked to people who are using paper ledgers. I've talked to people who use spreadsheets. And also there's some folks who are using software like Quicken, which is really a financial tracking tool rather than a business tracking tool. Or maybe you're a QuickBooks desktop user and you're wondering about the online version. If you feel like it, throw in the chat what you do to track your business, just to give me a sense of what you're using, but no judgment whatsoever. So just to backtrack a second, why use accounting software at all? It may be obvious, but a lot of people start using it because of tax preparation. It costs a lot to have your accountant do your taxes, and the more information you can give them that's already prepared, the better. But there's really some more important reasons to be using it. And I think this past year with COVID has really taught a lot of people a lot about that. In order to access emergency grants and loans, you have to have been able to create financial reports. A lot of these sources are asking for more than tax returns. They're asking for profit and loss statements. They're even asking for balance sheets. And if you don't have a tracking system that allows you to produce those easily, then it's been kind of hard to watch, but some people have been really left behind when it has come to getting those grants. So really good, if there's ever been a good time to do this, it's now. Obviously, if you are ever in need of a loan or are trying to attract investors to your business, then having financial tools like balance sheets and spreadsheets is just, the most basic part that you need to start with. And also, if you're ever going to think about selling your business or you're thinking about buying a business, you need to have financial reports so that people can evaluate the value of your business. But probably the most, in my mind, the most important reason is that it really helps you manage your business on a day-to-day basis so that you can be successful. There's all kinds of questions that come up on every day when you're managing your business, and a good financial tracking tool can help you do that. So I do want to just speak quickly about why QuickBooks, and mention that it is absolutely not the only software out there. I am what's called a QuickBooks Pro Advisor. I'm not a salesperson of QuickBooks. So I do want to mention that there are other options. Xero is a software tool that probably is QuickBooks' closest competitor. It has a large part of the European market. I think it's an Australian-based company. There's also FreshBooks, Wave, which is actually a free option. And there's also something called QuickBooks Self-Employed. And I'm not going to be covering QuickBooks Self-Employed, but I do want to mention it. It is a software program that is distinctive. It's not connected to their small business software. It was designed specifically for people who consider themselves self-employed or only sole proprietors without employees. The software is tied specifically to the Schedule C tax form, and what that means is you cannot change the chart of accounts. So because of that, it can be very limiting. It's kind of a hybrid between personal and financial software. It actually allows you to track your personal expenses, because a lot of people who may just be doing a side gig or something, or they're a gig economy worker, they oftentimes don't have both a business bank account and a personal bank account. So this software lets you use it with one account. But I just want to mention it, and if you have questions about it and you think that might be a better option for you, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm happy to walk you through what that's all about. But we do talk about QuickBooks a lot, and that's because it is so widely used. And because it's so widely used, it means that you have access to free training. A lot of bookkeepers and accountants use it. There's ways to get discounts on it. There's forums you can join, and it still gets ranked very high in reviews. So that's why we talk about it so much, but it really is not the only option. So all QuickBooks software allows you to do these basic things. It allows you to track your income and expenses, create financial reports of various different sophistications depending on your the one you buy. They all allow you to download transactions from your bank and credit card directly into the software. They all allow you to invoice customers and accept payments. And this goes for QuickBooks Self-Employed as well. For additional costs, you can add on payroll services. You can use them as your credit card processor. You can bundle a package with TurboTax if you do your own taxes. And now they're even offering virtual bookkeeping services where someone literally comes onto your screen, a live person that you can talk to. And they're rolling out a feature called QuickBooks Commerce, which is basically a way to manage, if you sell online, it's a feature that will allow you to manage your inventory across all the platforms like Etsy and Amazon and WooCommerce and Shopify and all those different tools that people are using now to sell products. But the real decision point, and the first decision point, is QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. So when I talk about QuickBooks Online, what I mean is that this is a software subscription service. You go to the QuickBooks website, you log in with your username and password, and that's where you access and you actually see your data. You don't download it onto a computer. So what that means is you can access it from anywhere. You can use a phone, you can use a tablet, a laptop. It doesn't matter what operating system you have. It's really, it's a web or cloud-based service. With QuickBooks Desktop, what you do is you can go to Staples and buy this. You can download it from the QuickBooks website. You own the software, and you do not need the internet to use it. And so it's on your local computer, and that's where you access the software. And when it comes to cost, and we're going to get into the details of cost because this is a big issue for people. When you buy QuickBooks Desktop, you buy it and that's it, you purchase it. It's good for 3 years. And what I mean by that is you stop getting tech support after 3 years. It doesn't mean that you can't keep using it. You just are not going to get tech support. So if you have a problem, you might be out of luck. It also, if you have any of those overlay services like payroll, you have to upgrade to QuickBooks, the next version. With QuickBooks Online, it's billed monthly, so it's a smaller fee that comes out on a monthly basis. There is no contract and you can cancel at any time, but over time it's significantly more expensive. So we'll talk about that. Another major thing to know is about sharing. A lot of small businesses work with their accountant so that at the end of the year, their accountant is doing closing adjustments, closing entries. And these are things like they go in and they put in your depreciation expense and they adjust your assets. So to do that, they have to access your software. And with QuickBooks Desktop, what you do is you create an accountant's copy, and then you have to get it to your accountant. So you do that by either uploading that to their secure website or you physically take it to them on a thumb drive. You really shouldn't be emailing that data. So that's it's a little bit cumbersome. They make the changes, they give you a copy back, you upload it to your computer, and then you start the new year. With QuickBooks Online, you can invite your accountant into the software at any time. They can have access, you just have to give them that access. And it has really streamlined the whole relationship with accountants and bookkeepers, because bookkeepers can then do your books remotely. You might get your refund faster because your accountant can get in there faster, and also they can answer questions along the way more easily. Another feature to understand is that when you buy QuickBooks Desktop, you have the ability to create multiple companies. It doesn't matter how many companies you have. With QuickBooks Online, you get one company per subscription, and sometimes they've run specials where you're allowed to have another company for another $5 a month, but I haven't seen that in a long time. And this is important for people who might have two small businesses running out of the same household, a spouse, or you have two separate business entities for completely different businesses. One's an LLC, one's a sole proprietorship. If you have a situation like that, it can get very expensive to use QuickBooks Online. Another feature to be aware of is that with QuickBooks Desktop, you have to remember to back it up. And with QuickBooks Online, it's always backed up on Intuit's servers. Doesn't mean that that's infallible, but it is on their server. They do use encryption software similar to a bank. Truthfully, I don't think this is too big of a deal because with cloud-based services now, Desktop does prompt you to save it, and you can save it to the cloud. You could save it to, Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox or any of those services. So some of the other differences here are that with QuickBooks Desktop, you'll always need to upgrade to get any new features that they have developed. Whereas with QuickBooks Online, you always have the newest feature, including features they're just trying to develop and that are in what's called beta. You can always try them out. You always have the latest version. A lot of people who use QuickBooks Desktop like it because it offers what are called industry-specific versions. So if you're a nonprofit organization or you have a retail business or a manufacturing business, you can get a version that's specific to your industry. And what that means is they have a chart of accounts that's typically used in your industry. They have reports that are kind of more specific or tailored to your industry. And they also use language that's more relevant for your industry, such as donors versus customers, clients, that kind of thing. The way it works with QuickBooks Online is that there's different levels of subscriptions that give you access to different functions, but there are no industry-specific versions. Instead, there's third-party apps, and just like applications that you get for your phone, they're either free or you pay for them. You can get these and overlay them onto QuickBooks Online to give you additional functionality that might be industry-specific. A lot of them are e-commerce related, or they might be creating specific reports. They might offer payroll services, special project organization, all kinds of different things. The only thing I would really caution you about is I've worked with some people where these third-party apps have ended up creating more problems for them. And it would have been just as easy for them to do what some of these apps were doing for them. They could have done themselves. So before you jump on the third-party app train, you really want to do your research to make sure that it's a highly, highly rated app. Another difference is with QuickBooks Desktop, you can connect your bank and your credit cards, but you have to initiate that download. So because you're not connected to the internet all the time. So you have to go through some steps to get your transactions downloaded into the software. With QuickBooks Online, it happens every day automatically. There's, I think it's like 10 o'clock at night or something. Most of your transactions will come over from your bank and your credit card if you connect them. And will automatically flow into your books, and that basically goes into a holding area where you then categorize them and put them into your books yourself, rather than them just going in without your knowledge. There is a place where you can manage them. Another big difference is that with QuickBooks Online, you get a mobile app. And you just download this from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. It's free, and you just log in like you were on your computer. And with QuickBooks Online, you can actually do everything that you could do with your desktop. With your regular computer. So if you have a business where, say, you're a landscaper and you've met with a client, you're sitting in your truck afterwards, you could send them an invoice right then. You could send them an estimate right then. So really, really helpful for businesses who are kind of on the go all the time. The app also will automatically track your mileage. You can actually set it up so that when your car starts moving, it will ask you if you're going on a business trip, which is kind of cool and a little bit strange at the same time. And also it allows you to capture your receipts. So if you're at a store and you want to take a picture of your receipt with your phone, you can do that and then upload it directly into your books. So for those of you who own businesses, this was a major pain point for me. My husband could never remember to track mileage or keep his receipts, so it really helps with that. With QuickBooks Desktop, you don't have the same access because you're not connected to the internet all the time, so you can't see your books, but you can pay extra to get the mileage and receipt tracking, and then it connects the next time you're connected to the internet. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then finally, what I would say here is that people ask which one is better, or what's the real difference here. And I would say that QuickBooks Desktop is a more traditional accounting software package. It has language that's more accounting kind of language. But it also has more functions. You do get more for your money with QuickBooks Desktop, I would say. You can get more sophisticated reporting, and it's definitely a good option if you manage a lot of inventory. With QuickBooks Online, it was specifically designed for small business owners who don't spend a lot of time bookkeeping, because of course you don't have time to do that. So there are some automated workflows. There's language that's used. They talk about categories instead of accounts. It was designed to make it easier for you. I will tell you though that people, if you're thinking of moving from desktop to the online version, I have heard people say they found the online version more difficult, and I think that's really more related to having to rewire your brain a little bit, because the two versions look very, very different, and it's kind of like learning to ride a bike again. So I'm just going to stop there for a second. I'm not seeing any questions. And as I said, there is time at the end to talk about anything you'd like. So this slide I know has a lot of information, and you are going to get a copy of the slides, so you don't have to write this down. But I put this together because QuickBooks does not make it easy for you to figure out the differences between its products, especially if you're trying to compare desktop to the online version. So I wanted people to see what's really going on here, and especially what the pricing is, because that can be a little surprising. What's not included on this slide is QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise or QuickBooks Online Advanced. Those are versions of the software typically purchased by larger companies, still considered small businesses. Small businesses by the SBA are considered anything from 500 or less employees. But most of the folks that we work with are in much smaller than that. So I didn't include that here. If that's something you think you may need, then you should be talking to a QuickBooks rep directly. You get your own sales rep, you get your own trainer, and it's a lot more expensive. I also have not included QuickBooks Desktop for Mac. If you're a Mac user and you are interested in the desktop, there's a very specific version that you have to buy. And one thing you should know is that about 2 years ago, QuickBooks tried to take this version away and just discontinue it. And I think that they did not realize that they had so many Mac users because there was real pushback. So they kept it, but it does make me wonder if they might do that again. They really are pushing people to go online. They make more money that way. And when you're online, it doesn't matter what operating system you're using. So that's a really important thing to understand. Also, the pricing here, there are ways to get discounts. Particularly for nonprofits, there's a great organization called TechSoup. You can get a massive discount through them, really, really amazing discount. And if you work with an accountant who is a QuickBooks Pro advisor, they sometimes have, they often have the ability to buy the online versions at a wholesale rate, and then they can resell them to you and they can set the price. So be sure to ask your accountant about that. It's for some of the versions, not all of the versions. So I first wanted to start with the desktop versions and take a look here. With Desktop Pro in 2021, the cost is $400. Again, this is a version that is good for 3 years, but you can keep using it. You get 3 users, and it's just a really solid piece of small business software, but it does not include all of those online features that can really streamline your business. With Desktop Premier, it's more expensive. It gives you 5 users, and this is the version you would have to purchase if you want that industry-specific functionality, especially for nonprofits, or if you want to use the special retail version or manufacturing, and there's some other versions. I put on the bottom of these 2 columns something called Pro Plus, and I want you to be really conscious of what this is when you go to their website, because they're going to try to sell you this if you're looking for a desktop version. And what the Pro Plus and Premier Plus is a subscription service. It's an annual subscription service, $300 per year or $500 per year. And it gives you those additional functions that I talked about earlier, like paying for automatic backups and updates. You get better tech support, and you get the mobile app for just for the receipt tracking and the mileage tracking. But really, really be careful when you're on the website to know what you're buying before you click on anything. Over here to the right, in the light blue, is QuickBooks Online. And I'm showing 3 versions. They do have 4, and they also have that self-employed version I talked about, but I'm just going to focus on these today. Simple Start is the cheapest one. It is $25 a month, and that equates to $300 a year. It allows you 1 user, and the users, your accountant, by the way, is not a user. They don't go towards your user count. It's a good choice if you have a really small business, but you think it's going to grow over time. But something to really be aware of is that it does not include an accounts payable function. And what that is if you follow accrual accounting and you keep track of bills before you pay them, because you want to keep track of what you owe people, what you have as a liability, you can't do that in this version. And I think that's probably because a lot of small businesses follow cash accounting, which means that you get a bill and you put it into your books when you actually pay it, because you write a check. But so I think that's why they don't include it, but just be aware of that. With the QuickBooks, all of the QuickBooks subscriptions, you can move up and down seamlessly. You can decide one day that you want Essentials, and you can just go into your account and click on the Essentials, and you can get all the features with Essentials. So you can go up or you can go down. With QuickBooks Online Essentials, that's the one that we use at the SBDC for training purposes. It's kind of an in-between. It's fine for businesses who don't track inventory. It does allow you to track bills, and it introduces a feature where you can start tracking your billable time if you have a business where you bill people by project. So it allows you to track your time by project. It also introduces the customer type option, and this is just a drop-down list where you can choose what you call your customers. They could be donors, they could be clients, patients, whatever it might be for your industry. So then we move over to QuickBooks Online Plus, and this version probably has everything you would need. But if you look at the price, it's $70 a month, which equates to $840 per year. It's a very different price than Desktop Pro, where you're getting some of the same features, other than obviously those online functions. It's also the version you would have to buy as a nonprofit, because it allows you to do fund accounting, which is basically separating different parts of your organization or your business into different revenue streams. It allows you to track multiple locations. It also allows you to track inventory, and it allows you to budget. The budgeting option is not available in the other versions. And I do just want to talk for a second about what the class tracking is, because I think it's a really important feature. If you have, a good example is an inn and a restaurant. If you have an inn with a restaurant, you need to track those parts of your business very separately, because you need to manage your costs very separately. And what the class tracking does is allows you to create basically 2 columns on your profit and loss statements, so you can see those revenue streams separately, and then it rolls up into one business for tax reporting purposes. For a lot of people, that's an important feature. And I will also tell you that QuickBooks doesn't do a very good job of telling you what you're not getting. You may choose to buy essentials and get in there and set it up and realize that you wanted the budgeting function, and you have to upgrade to get that. So this, I think, covers a lot of the things that they may not be telling you. So what I want to do is take us on over to the QuickBooks website. I want to show you a few things to be aware of, and also show you how to test drive the software. So I'm just going to quickbooks.intuit.com/pricing to get to their pricing page. When you get there, hopefully everybody, Kelsey, you can tell me if you're seeing the QuickBooks website. At the top, there, it looks pretty simple. There's, four basic menu, 4 separate pages. What you're going to notice first is they are not showing you any desktop versions when you go onto their basic plans and pricing page. And that, again, is because they really are pushing people to go to the online versions. So to find the desktop versions, your best strategy is to just scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see links for all of these different versions. So I'm going to click on the Desktop Pro, and here's another little thing for you to know about. You go here and you're looking at it, and they're telling you about the Pro Plus. That is the annual subscription service. So you want to be really careful that that's not what you're buying. It's an annual amount that you have to pay every year. You have to keep scrolling if you just want the plain Jane basic desktop version for that $400. So those are a little tip there that I've learned over time. Another thing that you want to be aware of, which is interesting, I've had some conversations with the QuickBooks team about this. You're going to notice here that they are showing you Simple Start, Plus, and Advanced, and not Essentials. The Advanced is that version for larger companies where you can have 25 users and your own team of people at QuickBooks to help you. It equates to almost $2,000 a year. I did call QuickBooks about this. I had one response saying they thought it was a technological glitch, and I had another person be probably more honest, and it's a marketing strategy. They're trying to show you the lowest version and the plus version and the highest version to make this look like this is kind of your in-between option, but it's not. I did bookmark the Essentials page, and it's right here. They do have a page. They are still selling it. It's $40 a month. That equates to $480 a year. So just be aware of that. And that's, I guess they're just good marketers. Also notice that over on the right-hand side is that self-employed option. And it may be something you want to look at. It is kind of a hybrid between personal and business financial software. But something to understand is that you cannot transfer your data from self-employed into, say, Simple Start. You have to start all over again. It's a completely standalone piece of software that is tied specifically to the Schedule C tax form. So you want to be careful. If you think that you might grow or you might have employees, that's not one you want to use. Another thing to be aware of here is that is the prices. So you're looking at these prices, and you're looking at Simple Start. $12 a month doesn't sound too bad, but you need to be aware that that is for 3 months only. So you might save $36 over the course of your first year, but it is the small number in the back with a line through it that you want to pay attention to. And again, they're not giving you annual costs. This equates to $300 a year. So be aware of that. You can go through and look at all of the different things that they do. I think I covered a lot of the major ones, but if you want to get into some more detail, you can just click on these drop-down arrows. You can also speak to a sales rep. If there's something really specific that you need to know, then they are going to be a good source for that. So I want to show you some ways that you can try this out before you make a commitment. One way that you can do that is through a free trial. And the way you do that is you toggle this button, and you'll notice that all that special pricing goes away. And then you select the version you want to try. You're going to go up here and continue without payroll. And it's making it look like you're about to buy it. That is not actually what's happening. If you check out, it takes you to a place where you create an account, and you'll notice it says no credit card needed. So you can go in here and test drive the software that way. But what you're getting when you do this is an empty software. There's no data in here, so you can't run reports, you can't really use it. So what QuickBooks tries to get you to do is to link your bank accounts so that you can use your data inside this test drive. Personally, I am not a fan of the idea of linking your bank account to software that you might not even be purchasing. So I don't like this option at all. I don't really recommend it, but if it is something you can do, and if you want to use your own data, what I rather do is a much easier option and much more useful option, which is their test database. So to get there, you go up to this Why QuickBooks link, and you go over to this test drive. And what happens here is you have to go through a little bit of a security thing. I have to choose mountains or hills. In a really grainy photograph. Maybe I'll choose that one, see what happens. Seems to have worked. And they're creating an account for you that lasts just for the time that you're on the website. And it goes into this dummy account for Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. I believe it's the Plus account. You can't see different levels of the software. They don't have a dummy account for each level. So this is what QuickBooks Online looks like, and that's how you would get in. You'd go to the website, you'd log in. I'm not going to walk you through this software, but I will tell you a few things just to know. On the left-hand side is your menu, which is where you'll be a lot of the times. The other major place you're going to be is in this new button, and when you hit that, this is where you go to add something into the database, whether it's an invoice or a check, or you're tracking a bill or a bank deposit. That's how you do that. And then the other major area that you want to be in is in the gear icon. And this is where you set up your account. And it's where you do additional things like reconciling and budgeting. I guess my big piece of advice, if you have never used QuickBooks before, is that you set it up correctly, and that you get your accountant or bookkeeper to help you set it up the first time and to walk you through it. If you don't have a bookkeeper or an accountant, I am happy to do that with you. I think we are thinking of developing a class to do that. But the reason why is I have worked with people who say that, when they look at their chart of accounts, which is really the backbone of the entire system, that they choose accounts that sound right, and that can get you into a lot of trouble. There's the old adage of garbage in, garbage out, and if you are not using the software correctly, you're not going to get the information you need or correct information. So I really encourage you to make sure you're working with somebody who can explain the chart of accounts to you and how what are called workflows work. So that is QuickBooks Online. You can actually find a way to test drive the desktop, which a lot of people don't know about. It's a little bit secret, I think. Let me just, I just want to make sure I'm going to log out of here. I don't know who Craig Carlson is. Okay. So on the PowerPoint presentation, I have a link to a page that is on the QuickBooks website, but it's kind of hard to find. And it goes to this page, and it's a chat about where to get the trial links. And you go to this page and you can click on a link. You can click on QuickBooks Self-Employed if you want to take a look at that. But you can also click on the desktop version, and they are showing you the enterprise version, but it basically is very similar even just to QuickBooks Pro. You can choose an industry version, and then I'll tell you, I have had a little bit of trouble getting into this. This is hopeful. It takes a few minutes, not a few minutes, but it's not the fastest thing in the world. It's kind of a large database basically that you're getting into. But this is a great way just to take a look at both of them and see, what you think. You then have to just choose a business to open. And that's where this can take a little bit of time. But you'll see that they look very different, these two software programs. And again, bear with me here. All right. So this is, if you were a desktop user now, this is going to look really familiar. Basically, you come in and the menu is at the top. You can also put it on the side. It definitely is a busier interface, and what you're looking at here is basically a map of proper workflows, and workflows are really important in QuickBooks. What I mean by that is if you, it's a map of step-by-step actions you should take. So for example, if you make an invoice to send to a customer, and then that customer pays you, you want to make sure you go into the receive payment function, and you don't just take that and create a deposit and say this is for sales. Because what QuickBooks does when it creates an invoice is it's actually behind the scenes booking it right then and there as income and booking it right then and there as accounts receivable. If you don't go through the receive payments function, you then double book that income if you just deposit it. And the same goes with bills. If you enter a bill that you owe someone, when you go to actually pay it, if you don't go through the pay bills function, you can double book that expense. So that's just a quick, overview of why workflows are important. And this is a place where you can see a map of how to do it. Again, I'm not going to take you through this, but you can go in here. You've got an entire database of a fake company. You can run reports. It's a good place to look at that thing I was talking about earlier of, doing reports by class if you want, especially if you're a nonprofit. That's right here. And you can see, even though this is the enterprise version, you do get most of these same reports in the Desktop Pro version. So lots of info there. So that's a good way to go in and take a look. Again, if all of this is Greek to you and looks really confusing, that's where you should work with somebody to walk you through how to use this, depending on your business. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation. And I wanted to just start a Q&A. You're welcome to put stuff into the chat, or you can, I think probably the chat's the best thing. And if people don't have questions, I can get us started with questions that I've often gotten in the past.
So it looks like there's a couple questions. First one I saw was Ryan Perkins asking, we have 15 subcontractors and have a track 10 task orders within a single government contract. Our invoices are required to be highly formatted with lots of data. Does that sound like essentials? I think
that sounds like plus, or yeah, that sounds like plus. Okay. Or another thing to think about is the desktop version, but essentials would probably not get you there. One thing I didn't mention is one thing that people do really like about the online version is you have more flexibility to create invoices that match your brand. There's more colors and fonts and all kinds of things you can do, which you can't get in the desktop version.
Okay. And then Josephine Moore is asking, so with Simple Start, your accountant cannot access this, but I'm not sure what this is.
No, your accountant can access any version of the online. What it doesn't offer is accounts payable, which is a function that you may not use. It's basically you get a bill in the mail, you enter the bill into your books so that information is being collected so that you know you have that liability. But a lot of small businesses just enter the bill when they actually pay it and they create a check, but it doesn't allow you to do that. But no, your accountant can access self-employed all the way up to all the other ones.
All right, and then it looks like Brian asked, can you do cash flow and annual budgets by month? But then also said, you just answered my question.
Oh, okay. And yes, you can do budgeting. Yeah. You can do budgeting by month, but you need to use the plus version to get the budget function.
And then can they share bookkeeping with a bookkeeping service and do some of it in-house?
Yes, absolutely. You can work with a bookkeeper to do, bookkeepers could just come in and close out your year, or they could close out the month, where you can enter the daily stuff. And QuickBooks, even as I mentioned, has a service where you can work with a virtual bookkeeper. Their picture comes up on a little video screen and you can talk to them.
Great. And then have you seen any issues with moving existing QuickBooks data from an older desktop version to the online version?
There is a process to do that. And if you have a really old version, I don't know the answer to that question. So you should call QuickBooks tech support and ask them. And they will, the QuickBooks online tech support is better. QuickBooks has been known to not have very good tech support, but it has definitely improved. And they will stay on the phone with you and walk you through it. You should feel comfortable asking them to do that.
Great. That's all of the questions that are currently submitted in the chat, but feel free to submit more.
Well, let me go over some of the ones that I have gotten in the past. One of the biggest questions I often get is this whole issue of having your financial data in the cloud. And I have a couple things to say about that. Nothing's infallible. So if you do buy the online version, there's a couple things you should do. There is a place where you can sign up for two-step verification, and that is the same thing that you get with your bank or your Google account if you turn that on. And that's the thing where if they notice you're signing in from a computer address that they don't recognize, they'll text you a code so that to get into your account. So that's one way of adding security in terms of hacking. And then in terms of data loss, you should know that with the online version, you can't just download your data. You have to request it. So if you, I would recommend that you request it after the end of every year, and it can take apparently up to a month to actually get the file. But you should get it, and what they'll do is send you a file that's a QuickBooks file that could be used with their other products. So you want to do that regularly. I also, people wonder where QuickBooks is going with the whole desktop online thing. And, I think it's safe to say that the desktop's going to be around for a while, because it does offer some more sophisticated features for larger companies, especially with inventory management. So I don't think they're going to be phasing it out anytime soon, but I do think that they are pushing people to go online. So just be aware of that. Any questions, Kelsey?
Nothing else submitted so far. That was fantastic.
Yeah, just, in terms of, how easy or hard this is to learn. If you are a desktop user now, you may find online a little bit frazzling for a while, but I was a desktop user, and now I'm a online user, and I was able to make the leap. And in terms of how to decide, you just really need to think through what it is that you need, and also the budget, the money, because I think the cost of these is, especially for the online, is significant, and it's not readily, it's not something you can see easily. So just make sure you've really thought through your budget. And also, again, with a plug for the SBDC, the advisors have great experience and can help you understand financial reports, and can help you understand just basic bookkeeping. We can connect you to accountants and bookkeepers if you need them. We're going to be offering more QuickBooks classes. I'm going to be doing one in a few weeks about understanding what the chart of accounts is and how it connects to your financial reports. I think a lot of small business owners get confused, especially about balance sheet accounts. I know I did when I had my business until I understood them. So encourage you to attend that. And there's also tons of great resources online. YouTube has many channels that have free training. I'm happy to share some of the ones I use. And yeah, lots of, SCORE has a webinar. I don't know if it's passed yet, but they had a QuickBooks trainer where you could sign up for a small fee and take like 4 or 5 weeks of classes. Lots and lots of resources out there.
Great. We've got one more question, just asking if there are any particular third-party apps for the online portion that you've seen problems with.
Yeah, so a lot of people, so one of the big things about using QuickBooks, which is really important to understand, is QuickBooks is great to use as a point of sale system if you have a business where that makes sense. So for example, using that example of the landscaping company, that's a business where somebody goes out, they talk with customers, they do work, and then they send them an invoice, and they keep track of their customer in that database. A lot of us have had businesses that are retail stores or lodging or food, and you are using a completely different POS system to track your sales. So one of the big points of confusion is how do you connect those so that they talk to each other. There is something you can do called uploading or creating a daily sales receipt, which summarizes data from your POS system, which can work absolutely fine. But a lot of the apps are now geared to helping you connect those systems. So for example, Square, the processing app Square, has an app that you can overlay. But the thing that the app is basically doing is just creating a sales receipt for you. It's not downloading your customer data into QuickBooks, and it's also not, it does download individual transactions, but not detail. And I did help someone try to use that app, and it ended up creating a lot of problems for them. So, and it's similar there. You should do your online reviews. You should go and Google them. You could just Google, uh, uh, the app you think you might want to use. But there's a lot of apps out there for integrating your online sales from Amazon, from Etsy, from all those. They have apps to help you integrate, but they're not perfect, I guess is my point. And sometimes it's easiest just to keep it simple. And then, yeah, some of the other apps are just more functionality, like there's other payroll services. You don't have to use QuickBooks payroll services, but you can use an online payroll service, which if you have several employees, I can't tell you how much it's worth having payroll service. And it's great that you can get some of that through QuickBooks. But yeah, you definitely want to do research and really read the reviews. I wouldn't use an app that was rated less than a 4.3, I think.
Perfect. It looks like you answered that question exactly as they were looking for. Yeah, that was super helpful. I feel like I have no books to cover, and I feel like I learned a bunch. So we'll see what the future holds. Awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say thank you to everyone for coming, and to remember that I will be following up later today with a copy of the slides and a recording of the entire presentation. So if you want to circle back to anything, all of that will be available.
And I was just going to say again, we're happy to help. I put my email address on the slides if you want to reach out and talk about a version that might work for you, or get some help with setting up your books in the first place. I can work with you on that. I'm not, we don't provide actual services to our clients, just to be clear about that. We're not providing bookkeeping services, just advice and help.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate everyone joining us. Keep an eye out for that email, and thank you very much, Tina.
All right, bye everybody. I hope you have a good rest of your day.